I was wanting to make a quick video and just share something that I learned at work the other day, and that is the red-green refactor methodology. It's a methodology used mainly in testing, specifically test-driven development, and it goes as follows. There's red-green refactor, like I said earlier. In this image, you can see you want to start, well, the image might not be so clear, but we're going to want to start with red, which is test failing, make some changes into our implementation, get the test to pass, and then implement refactoring once we know that our current implementation is meeting specific criteria. So like it says earlier up here in the red, we want to start off with a failing test, and then green, make it pass by implementing the code, and then number 3, refactor, make it better. And so I'm going to show an example of it I have up already. I have 2 functions here, both of them being tested. They're very simple just for the demonstration purposes. Of this function, func, is just something simple, creating this total variable to add the parameter x by 5, and then we return it. And we are testing to make sure that it equals true, or the expression becomes true. So if I run this, we can see that both of these tests are currently passing, which is good. It means we can implement the next step of refactoring. So for example, this function right here on line 1, we really don't even need this total variable, and we can instead just return x plus 5. At least that's the idea we're wanting to try out. And so now if I clear my terminal and rerun this command, we will see that assumption was correct, it paid off, and we can proceed knowing that this function is doing exactly what we want it to do. Another example I have is on line 4, the bubble sort function. It's pretty simple, but I was wondering, let's see if there's anything that we can do to make this better. Now I have some ideas as to something that I can implement to make this better without too much changing the functionality of the bubble sort itself, or just doing an early return to where if there's nothing left to be sorted, like if we get a clean pass, then we can just return early and break through these 2 for loops. So we can add a feature flag here, not necessarily a feature flag, but just a flag, Boolean value. I'll just call it sorted. We can set this equal to true by default, and now when we go into this for loop, if there's a change, then we know that sorted is false, and we're going to want to keep going and keep checking. But if we get to here, if sorted is true, then we can break out early. And hopefully, yep. So we're not necessarily measuring performance with this test, but we know that these changes that we made are working, and then we can know very well that this bubble sort, perhaps we need another test to measure the time differences and use a bigger array than just these, I don't know, 7 numbers. But hopefully the idea can come across. And I don't know if paying attention earlier, but Copilot suggested we can just use the Boolean expression of if sorted. We don't even have to do a comparison for if it's true or not. And again, that worked. And the inspiration for this video was, well, I don't use Python at work. It's mainly JavaScript and Node.js, but we use Mocha for our testing framework, and I made the mistake of just copying a test, something like this. I changed the name, but then I forgot to change the body of it. So I had my own function. I'll just do it 3 to keep it with the test name. And so I was running the test, and it was passing before I had even made any changes. I was under the false assumption that any changes I was making was keeping any changes I was making to func3, or I guess in this case the function I was working on in my work project, that it was correctly being tested, but in reality it was not, and I was just rerunning a previous test. So the important thing here is to make sure when you are doing something or doing testing is to make sure, if you're following test-driven development, try this red-green refactor testing, where before you even start the implementation, you want to make sure that you're getting a failing test. So here we have a failing test, and then ideally you'd make some changes. So if I'm passing an x minus 3, that gives me 0. And so now I'll save this and test it again, and hopefully, okay. Now I know that there are 3, all tests are passing, and really this is the only test I care about since I'm working on function 3. But now I can go with an assurance that function 3 is working correctly. If you have any feedback or any experience with test-driven development or red-green testing or comments, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll try to look at them after the video is posted. And thank you for your time.